Welcome back, everybody, to our Bible study in the book of Song of Solomon. I wore red today to represent the fires of love. I will have to put out our parental advisory on this chapter because we are going to be talking about some topics. And if you are just jumping into this book here, let me remind you that what we're talking about in a lot of Song of Solomon is a celebration of love, also a celebration of attraction and sexual intimacy in the right context in which God has created it. So this chapter ties into that overall theme pretty directly. Let's go to our PDF now, which you can download on our website for free if you would like it. We are, of course, going to first talk about our author, which is Solomon. Our characters once again remain the same. We have the young woman, the Shulamite, the bride of the young man, who is Solomon. And we also have the daughters of Jerusalem, but they're not going to be as featured in this chapter. Let's take a quick look at some definitions. And these are going to vary a little bit based on your translation. I'm using the English Standard Version. Tresses is the first one. It appears in verse 5. Loose braids or flowing curls of hair. Number two in verse 5 also. Carmel. Now, this is not the stuff that you put on your ice cream. Carmel here is a reference to a mountain in northwest Israel on the coast of the Mediterranean Sea. There's a famous event with Elijah and the prophets of Baal that happened on Mount Carmel. And then we have mandrakes in verse 13. This is a plant that we've seen before in the Old Testament. Actually, bonus points if you know where a reference to mandrakes is. I'll give you a hint. It's in the book of Genesis. It was a plant that was used for fertility and as an aphrodisiac. We have a total of 13 verses in this chapter. Let's break it down into two sections. The first one is verses 1 through the first part of verse 9. This is the young man. This is Solomon speaking about his bride. Solomon's desire for the delights of his bride, as he says. So Solomon continues complimenting his bride as he did back in the last chapter. Literally in this chapter, staring at her from her feet to her head and complimenting her all the way up. Solomon says that her feet were beautiful and her sandals and her thighs were like rounded jewels, or were round like jewels, or maybe the curves of them were like jewels. Her navel like a bowl full of wine, and her stomach like a heap of wheat encircled in lilies. You'll notice that some of these compliments, maybe we would probably phrase them a little bit different today, but this is the way that he talks about his desire and the beauty of his bride's body. Her breasts like two fawns, like twins of a gazelle. We've seen that before. Her neck like an ivory tower. Her eyes like pools of water, and her nose like a tower of Lebanon. That's probably one we might rephrase in the modern day. No, I don't think anyone wants to be complimented. Man, wow, your nose is like a tower. But what he's saying here is this tower, Solomon was into building things. And so when he built things like a tower or something, he was like, wow, that's really beautiful. So he's probably looking at her nose. And that's basically what he's saying. It's something to behold. It's beautiful, beautifully constructed. Her head was like the peak of Mount Carmel, crowning her majesty, and her hair like purple, beautiful enough to capture even a king's attention. Solomon then continued with some more intimate compliments. He said that she was like a palm tree and her breasts like clusters of fruit. He said that he was going to climb the tree and taste the fruit. And he looked forward to making love to her because her breath was like sweet apples and her mouth was like the best wine. So this brings us to section number 2, where the bride responds to Solomon. The bride gives Solomon her love, verse 9 through 13. So after having been complimented so thoroughly and probably feeling very beautiful at this point, Solomon's lover, his wife, was very eager to give Solomon the fruit that he enjoyed so much. She encouraged him by telling him that the things that he enjoyed so much, the things that he would taste, would go down smoothly for him. She said, quote, "I am my beloved's and his desire is for me." She invited him to go to the vineyard with her to see whether the fruit was in bloom, this imagery of springtime that we saw in chapter 6, and to satisfy the desire that was blossoming or blooming in both of them. And at their vineyard getaway, she says that she had fruit both old and new for him to enjoy. So that is our summary of chapter 7. And now you can see why I wore red for love in this chapter. Let's talk about our application now. Talk about love a little bit more and what we can learn from this and what we can learn from the way that the lovers interact with each other. You notice that the young woman relishes in the fact that her husband's desire is for her. Wives want to feel like the object of the desires of their husband. And when they do, this kind of mutually satisfying intimacy and generous sexuality blossoms. The woman is made to feel beautiful and desirable and longed for, which arouses her love and makes her eager to please the one who makes her feel that way. So that begs the question, what keeps this from happening in marriages, in relationships like this? Well, I can speak to the men, I guess, because that's a little bit easier for me. What keeps this from happening? Well, often men don't admire their wives and compliment their wives the way that Solomon did here. And I'm certainly not saying that I'm the best at it. Definitely have room for improvement. Also, unfortunately, many men are better at admiring other women other than their wives and spend more time admiring other women than their wives, and their wives aren't ignorant to it. Men, do you think that your wife catching you staring at some woman in the grocery store and admiring some beauty about her is really going to make her feel like the object of your desire? No, and you shouldn't be doing that whether your wife's there or not. 3 times in this book, Solomon sits back and he admires his bride. He admires his wife. He looks at her literally from head to toe and delights in what he sees and lets his mind wander on that. And then he tells her what he enjoys so much about her. He articulates both his admiration for her and his appetite for her. And of course, men are notorious for not being great at articulating their feelings and their emotions and their needs. And one thing that we see in Solomon here is like, he's not shy about it. He tells her exactly what he thinks of her multiple times throughout the book and how he really wants her. Husbands, if you look at your wife that way and talk to your wife that way, she is going to relish in the fact that she is the object of your desire above all other women. The mutual satisfaction of intimacy is going to be greater, and your marriage will be stronger and more secure because of it.